Okay, so we are in Photoshop, so I'm going to go ahead and just go to new. Actually, let's do new. We'll go new, and I'm going to make a new file. Let's make this like 2048 by 2048. It's a reference, so you don't really need it huge. That's plenty big, so let's say create. And so now we've got a square aspect ratio, and then I want to go to open, and I'm just going to paste in the address where I save those off, hit enter, and there we go. There's all of our files, and we can actually look at these if we want, because they are JPEGs, so they should come in. And some of the references I'm just going to keep on the side, but I have specific ones that I'm planning on bringing into Maya, and those are the ones that I want right now. So, okay, so anything right here says right side, left side, my front, I want a back, which is, there we go, back, and I think I want a top one too. I have a top right there. There we go. Say open. Give it a second. Maybe more. There it goes. Photoshop's laggy these days. All right. As we're looking at these, you may notice that there's kind of like these little black borders that are right around the edges. That's because I already straightened them, but if you were to have a reference that wasn't straightened, make sure you come in here, and you could actually you could like take a layer and just duplicate it. Just drag that down over the plus there, and then you can just hit Control T on your keyboard, which allows you to rotate. If you just kind of click over, you'll see there's like a little rotation thing. If you go here, you can make it smaller, but for just for the purposes that you want to rotate it. And you can hit Control R to get your rulers out, and if you just click in here and drag right onto the ruler line, you should be able to pull a ruler out like so, and then you can hit Control plus if you want to get closer. Hold your space bar and just make sure that these things are lined up really good. This is pretty close, but if it's not, you can hit Control minus to zoom out a little bit if you need to. You can go ahead and just zoom out a little and just adjust it like so. So that's how you would kind of line those up. I'm not going to worry about that because I've already done it. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag that and delete it. I don't need that layer. I'm going to combine these all into one layer and get them all, or I should say one document, and get them all like the same size. So I can just drag these off one by one, or there's like a way to go float all in window. Let's see, float all in window right there, and then they'll all just pop off. Photoshop seems, or I should say Adobe seems to change Photoshop a lot these days, so sometimes I wonder if like things will be set up the same, but luckily that one was. So now that I have these all, what I can do is I can just click and drag them into this document. So you could just click over on this window here and drag this over to here, but I'm going to hold shift when I do it. So if you hold shift and drag it, it'll actually center right in the middle of the document. So that's a nice thing. And then I'll do the same thing here, shift, close that, and it'll be apparent later why I go through these steps. So just keep doing it. Cancel. What did I do? Did I get the right one in there? Yep. Oh, I must. Oh, that's because I made a new layer, so it's thinking it has to save it. Hold shift. All right, there we go. So if I want to get this full, I can hit Control 0, so it'll just open it up bigger, and you can hit F on your keyboard, and that will make it so like you can actually move it all the way around. Control minus to back off, or you could use the zoom tool, of course. I have that already selected. Hold Alt, and you can minus. This is not really supposed to be a complete Photoshop tutorial, but I'll just tell you what I'm doing while I'm doing it. So I want to select all of these, and I want to shrink them, but what I want to do first before I shrink them down is I want to find the center point. So if I drag out these little guides, and if you go slow when you get towards the middle, it'll actually snap towards on the middle right there. You can kind of feel it snap. If that's not working, there is a way to, it's not in snap, it's actually in here. Snap, snap to, and you can play with these to get that so it's snapping correctly. You might have it turned off. So I basically, what I'll do is I'm going to set all these up so they're kind of like the same size proportionately, and then they're all sitting basically like as if the Starship Android was sitting on this plane right here, like this was a ground plane. So I'll select all these and hit Control T. So I hold down here, click on one, then hold Shift and click on the bottom one. So select all of them, hit Control T. And I'm actually, the guides are way outside of this border, so I'm going to hit Control minus so I can come out, and then I will just grab a corner. And you can see it goes towards this corner, which is fine. I could just move it in, or I believe if I hold, is it Control? Nope, it's not Control. Shift. I think it's Control and, let's see, Shift and Alt. That's it. It'll go towards the center, so you can bring them right in. But it's actually altering the proportionality of that too. So I don't want that. So I just want to. So I guess I'll just move it off to the corner like so, and I'll just slide it something like that. So they're all roughly like the same size, and I still want to get like as much resolution out of these as I can, just so I can see details a little bit better. So I'll move it up like that, and let me just roll in here a little bit, Control plus. That looks fine. I'll hit enter. I'll have to adjust some of these other ones. I'm just looking at the top one right now. So what I want to do is, let me just go ahead and I'm going to hit V on my keyboard and then just drag this down a little bit. You could see when I get to the center, it lights up and turns like pink on the guide. So you could also, if you're on the move tool, which is this one right here, you can use your arrow keys to just basically move this over. And actually, I'm not going to line it up perfectly with the photo. I actually want to line it up with this camera that I can see right here, or it's a sensor, something like that. So I'm going to line it up with that because the photo might not be perfect. And there, that looks good. So I can hide that. I can bring up this one. And if I want to take the first one, maybe bring it back up and drop the opacity a little bit. And we can see how much the first and the second one line up, because I want to size these so they're roughly like the same size. And by golly, they look pretty darn close. So I'm just going to hit my arrow key. Let's see, I'm not on my, let me go on my move tool. Move tool is V on your keyboard. So let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. So you can see there's like another little sensor right in the middle of the back. Maybe it's better if I just line up the sensors like so. There's one in the center back right there. However, maybe my pictures weren't taken at like a perfect angle because it doesn't look like it's lining up perfectly. So I think I'm just going to kind of eyeball the edges. So I'm just looking on the outside edges to make sure those are lined up. So I know it'll be like when I actually make this, you know, you make compensations for what you didn't get right in your pictures. Let's see here, and it looks like the top is pretty close. I feel like let's see here, it's pretty close. That's pretty good. So what I'll do is just hit Control T again with just this layer selected. And let me Control minus out a little bit so I can see this. And now I'll just go ahead and just drag that a little bit down. Come down here. Drag it a little bit up so that I get this kind of as perfect as I can with those lining up. It'll all come together later, but I like to, you know, the closer I can get to setting these up perfectly here, you know, down the line, everything just seems to work better. So I like that. That looks good. Okay, so we can go ahead and hide that one and just double check it. Yeah, that looks really good. Let me just turn the opacity back up here. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so pretty darn good. And then we'll go ahead and I'll just bring this one up, this side one. Now this is completely different because the front and the side don't have to like necessarily line up, except for like I want to try to get the top and the bottom roughly the same size. And you could tell that these are bigger. So actually what I could do here is if you're on your move tool, let me just drag off these guides. So I'm just going to click on them, and once you drag them off to the ruler part up here, they'll disappear. What I'll do is I'll bring my front back in, and I'll drag a guide so it's right on the top of the front, and we know where the wheels are. And so all we have to do now is we just need to make sure that we move this up. So we just make sure it's selected, move it up, it's nice and centered, and I can use my arrow keys just to get it right where I want it. And then now we can go ahead and hit Control T again, and I'll just go ahead and start, you know, sliding it up. So it's gonna nail the center, basically. And an easier way to do this too might be if I cut off like the top part of this actual picture, so I can drag this down a little bit, and I can use my marquee and just click and drag and just get rid of most of it. I don't want to actually delete anything into the pixels I need, but I can just go ahead and hit delete on my keyboard with that marquee selecting it, hit Control D to deselect, and then now we are ready to move this again. So let's go ahead and hit Control T again, and I know where my marker is. It's like right there, and so we're really close now. Go up a little bit more. Like I said, I leveled this already. It was a tiny bit off, but not too bad. You know, I went out with my good camera and a long lens that I have to take this picture. If you don't have stuff like that, that's fine. But if you're using like your phone, you're taking pictures of stuff, try to use your longest zoom lens on it, because it compresses the object so you don't get as much perspective distortion. So let's go ahead and just check that. And let's see what we get. So that's pretty close. We could probably make it just a tad bigger. Might as well spend the time up front. You just hit Control T again. But it makes sense to use your, you know, to spend the time up front getting this right, so that later, you know, everything lines up nicely. And as you can see, we're a little bit off there. I'm just going to go ahead and pull that down just a tiny bit. It's pretty close, and I'll pull it down on the other side just to balance it. Yeah, right there. Control 0 will zoom it out, and now that's should be lined up pretty good. And these were taken with the same camera and lens. Maybe not at the same focal length, but because it's a zoom lens. But it's going to be pretty close. So now all we have to do with the next one is kind of the same thing, is just go ahead and select that, move it up. Actually, I forgot. Let's get rid of that top part. Marquee. Get rid of most of it right there. Hit delete. That'll make my life easier. And of course, I can kind of do the same thing down here too. Just get rid of most of that. Control D. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just to make sure I didn't cut off part of the... Yeah, see, I did. I cut off part of the wheel. So Control Z, undo that, Control Z again. And so if you're on the marquee tool, you can just use your arrows to move the marquee down a little bit. I just don't want to cut off any pixels that I need. Actually, this one doesn't look like I line this up the greatest. It's a little bit off. So let's do this. Let's delete that. I'm going to hit Control D, deselect. And now what I can do is I'll pull out a little bit and hit V on my keyboard. It's going to center this a little, about right under the front tire. So my snapping's on so that it makes it harder to try to move this without it snapping right to the edge here. I'm just trying to get the center tire like perfect. And then I'm going to hit Control 0 and then Control T again. And then I'm just going to go ahead and balance this out. So I guess you do get to see me doing an actual balance. Now, if you're in your transform and you want to zoom in still, you just hit the Control plus and Control minus. That allows you to keep doing that. And you can still hit spacebar and move yourself over. So I need a little bit more, let's say, like that. I know I'm being very particular here, but we want this to come out looking high end. So it, like I said, it makes sense to go through the painstaking, process of making sure everything's right from the beginning. And we're still just like a tiny bit off. So I'll show another trick that you can do, which is you can come here and you can select this, and if you hit Control T, you'll notice that like there should be like a little I don't know what you call it, there's like a node in the middle, and where is it? I don't see it. Hold on a second here. There's a way that you can basically snap it to like one edge, but I'm not seeing it. This is another thing that Photoshop might have changed. Let's see here. Let's pull this off to the side. There's probably some kind of view thing that it's not showing. Show slices, layer edges, guides, lock guides. Don't see it. All right, well, it's another way to like, you basically could snap this little thing there. So like you rotate it from, I can actually put it like right under one of my tires and rotate it just from under that one tire. And then it actually makes it so like it's a lot easier to line stuff up like this. But I think we're splitting hairs at that point. So just as a little interrupt, I went back and found out what I was missing. It used to be on by default. You hit Control T and there's this little thing right here where you check that. And if you grab this thing, in fact, it seems, there we go, now it's moving. You can move it that way, or you could hold Alt and you could like click underneath like your tire, let's say, and then it will rotate from that point. So that's what I wanted to show you. Okay, let's look at this. That's close. That's pretty good. Okay, I think that's good enough. I know I don't want to beat a dead horse here. We got the one side really good, so as long as that side's really good, we should be all right. We'll just let's just slide that down, and we'll go right there. And then I'll just use my keys here to move it over. Actually, so really, should probably just crop this out a little bit. So we'll hit delete. So using the marquee tool, let me move the marquee over a little bit, hit delete. And now if we hit Control T again, Control D first, let's get rid of that, Control T, there'll be a different center. So that'll actually be the center. And then we should probably do the same thing here. Who would have known that setting up references would take so long? Oops, let's do this. But this is the foundation, right? So whenever you're learning something, it's the foundational stuff that is the most important. So you want to learn like really good foundational skills. And I think that should be fine. Let's go ahead and just drop the opacity here so we can line these up so they sort of fit together. So of course the tires aren't going to line up, but you can see like these lines are pretty good, those lines are pretty good. The top is pretty close. Once we put these on a plane in Maya, we can adjust that even more. Now, if I wanted to get really let's say really crazy with this, I could cut this out and make an alpha for everything make this white in the alpha and make everything black so that I only see this, and that way I wouldn't get confused by any of the outside area. The way I would probably do that in this kind of scenario is I would probably use my path tool, because these are relatively, nice smooth lines that we can work with. So instead of like trying to do this all by hand or painting it, you can just use your path tool to basically do stuff like that. And now I know this really is going overboard, so if you don't want to do this step, by all means do not do this step. It's not necessary. So for instance, I'm just going to do one little section here so you can see how I might cut this out. So I can go like that, and then I'm just single clicking. When to get the rounded, I click and drag. And I'll show that up here. So I'm just going to single click, but then let's say, well, we'll go single click here, and then maybe here, and so this is all single clicking. I'm going to do maybe like a rounded edge over here. Well, let's do one right here. If I click and drag, you get a Bezier curve. And so then you can make that go around little corners. But for this, it's probably pretty easy just to kind of go like that. And so now we have this path. And if you come over to the path here, you can see there's a work path. I could double click it and click OK. Then it's the path 1. You can hit selection. And then what you can do is go to the layers, and I could just delete that. Or you can mask it. Like if you do the whole thing, you would want to mask it and then like invert the mask or something. So I would just go ahead and hit delete. So now none of that's there. But the pro way to do it would be more like this. I would go ahead and hit mask, and see it's going to do the other side. So I just make sure I'm selecting the mask and hit Control I, and then I'm inverting, and then you can see that I've just got this nice little edge. Looks like it's like anti-aliasing the edge. Let me pull up like the mask tools. If you double click on it, you can pull that up. Transparency feather. That's weird. It looks like it's kind of doing like a soft anti-aliasing on it, which I don't really want. But all right, don't see anything in here that says it's doing that, but whatever. Yeah, so for my whole tutorial, I will go through and clear these out so it'll look cool in the Maya viewport, but you don't really have to do this. If you've gotten this far, you're pretty ready to get into Maya at this point. You could just save out the different views. So I'll go ahead and pause the video, and then I'll show you my results of masking these out after I show one last thing, which is the top. Okay, so we also need the top. Now the top, I did take a picture with my cell phone because my lens was too long and I'm too short to take a picture of the top of this thing. You can see I threw my wallet on here, my Ren and Stimpy wallet. And the reason why I did that is so that I can actually get a measurement, like I can measure my wallet, and then I will know the measurement of this whole thing. I have measurements with a tape measure in my reference files, but I thought it would be a good idea just to like put my wallet in here too, so that would be another form of measurement, and I can get the full size that I want. So I want to take this though and hit Control T, and I'm going to hold Shift, and it will snap to increments as I rotate. So 15 degrees increments. And then I'm just going to hit Enter to complete that. Let's take a look at this. Actually, we want the side ones, and we want to make sure that we're going to scale this. We're going to scale this to the other views here. So let's go ahead and just bring this up. So basically the center of this should be right at the edge there, and I'll hit Control T. I will drag out so that it will be roughly this line right here should line up right like that, and hit Enter, and that should be pretty good. This one will act a little bit different. I'll probably just center it down like this, and I will export it like this. basically. Let me just double check and make sure these are aligned. That's pretty good. And that one's pretty good. So hold V. When you have your move tool, you can adjust these little guides. So I'm just gonna move it like that and just make sure. Yeah, it's a little bit off, so we'll scale it. I don't know about you guys, but I've been using Photoshop for over 20 years, and ever since they've gone to like this cloud, well, not even when they in the beginning of cloud, but like just, I don't know, last maybe a year I've been using it. It's very buggy, or at least it's slow. It's like slow. It doesn't move as fast, and not sure what they're doing, but come on, Adobe, bring it back to us. All right. I'll show one little fast forward version of me masking this out. So we'll go to our pen tool, hit P, and here we go. Okay, now that you saw me mask that out, the next thing we want to do is I'm going to hold Control and click on this little mask here, and it will select it. So you can see you get the little marching ants around there. And then we're going to go into the channels, and I'm going to actually just hit the plus. And what it'll do is, let's see here. Let's undo that. Control Z. Let me get off of this. I think it'll work if I do it over here. If I hit, it still has me selecting the layer mask. Channels. Okay. And that's the other thing that's changed. Just hit the plus, and then if your white is showing up here in your swatches, just hit Alt Delete, and it will fill it with white. Now that's your alpha channel. Now there's a reason why I'm doing this like this, and I'm going to show you how to save out a Targa instead of a like a PNG, because it works better in Maya for transparency when it comes to the viewport. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I know they you don't need to save it to the cloud unless you really need to. This is all Adobe trying to get money from you, trying to get you to save to the cloud. So interesting. Save as copy. You got to do this. It used to not be like this. They've muddled things up to make it harder. So Targa TGA, and I'm going to call this top, or let's be in code ref starship underscore top. We'll do it like that. Hit enter. It's going to ask me, do I want to save it as 16, 24, or 32 bits? I'm going to say 32 and hit OK. And what the 32 will do is it will embed that alpha channel. So say OK. And OK. I actually saved it in the wrong spot. But that's okay. I will fix that. Let's see here. Where'd my Targa go? There it is. Okay, so if I drag this Targa back into Photoshop, there we go. This is what it looks like. But if we go to channels, you'll see here's that alpha channel. You can hold Control and click it, and you'll get that selection that we made. And let's just close that. Let me bring that folder back up. So I'm going to cut this out of here. Cut. And I will put this into my Starship source images folder. So I'll hit Control V, like so. And this is where you get your textures. So that's where we want that. Minimize that. Bring up Maya. There we go. So if I was just to make a plane, and let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. I'll eventually size these to what their actual size should be, so we don't have any problems. And I will go ahead and just make this 1 by 1. And let's turn the grid off for now. And then I'll go ahead and just make a material. So right click and hold, drag down to new material. I just need a Lambert for a reference. And we'll go to here to the Lambert, go to color, file, click on the folder, and see it takes you right to your source images. So there's that targa. Say open, and look at, you don't see the outside. Say open, and then all we need to do is hit 6 on the keyboard, and bada bing. It looks great. If you do this with PNGs, it's supposed to work, but for some reason, like the alpha, it'll like make this semi-transparent as well. It gets weird. Maybe Maya's fixed it in 2022. I've been using 2018 up until very recently. So maybe that's fixed. Maybe I'm wrong. But in the past, it's been a problem. So that's it. That's how you would get one of these in. Now I have to go do the rest of these, and then I have to do the sizes properly so that we can get this all sized out. So one last thing I'm going to add into my references, and I wanted to record this for you. You can see that I use this tape measure to roughly measure this, and it's roughly around 68 centimeters. So that's something that I'm going to write down in here. So I'll just get a text field up, hit T on your keyboard, or not. Not coming up. I'll just go over here to the tool, and I'm just going to put in 68 centimeters. 68 centimeters, something like that. And once I get one dimension measured correctly, the rest of them should come pretty easily. So there we go. Let's drag that to somewhat in the center here, because it's 68 right along the center. And it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but because we're doing this for entertainment reasons, this isn't like we're engineering this thing. Obviously, if we were, we'd be building this in CAD. There we go. Let's just go ahead and I'll get a brush out and change my color here, maybe to like red. And then I'll just go ahead and hold shift, and I don't know what's going on there. Are we on? Let's go here. Let's turn that off. I swore I just selected. Oh, I didn't change the saturation. So we can do something like that. I don't know. You don't have to do this, but I'm just kind of like that kind of person who, oops, I'm gonna hold shift, drag. I'll do something like this. Okay, shift hold keeps it like well, one thing is you can click and hold shift and it'll draw a straight line between, or you can hold shift and drag left and right. It's horizontal. Shift and drag up and down. I think you can go, no, they don't let you go on a diagonal. You could go on a diagonal like that if you wanted to. But now I'm going to resave this with this alpha channel so that it will have these little markers in there. And because I have the alpha channel the way it is, you'll see that the red won't actually, I won't see all of this. I'll only see the red that's within the edge of the actual object. So it should turn out looking pretty good. Okay, so we'll do that one more time. File. You could go save as copy right from here, and of course to the cloud. And then you have to go and pull the target up again. And so it's going to the original folder that these came out of. So we have to change the folder because I want it in here now. Save that. Yes. It's going to ask me 32-bit. Yes. Otherwise, if you don't need the alpha channel, you could save it as a 24-bit. That's fine. And if you come into here, then you'll see, let me select this. If you go to the Lambert, you'll see that there's looks like there's two things in here, in the color and in the transparency, showing that there's files in both of these. Maya knows automatically to take a 32-bit target and put the transparency of the alpha channel in there, but we do need to reload this. So there you go. And so now you can see, we can see what that size is right there. Okay, so that's that, and looks good. All right, everybody. So just to cap this thing off, I've gotten all of these different views, and I have them all masked off. Like I said, you don't have to mask them off. This is just because I'm a little OCD, and you know, if you're like me, you kind of go overboard sometimes. So that being said, we are ready to get out of here and get into Maya and get on with the setting up the references in Maya. So all that work that we just did, why go through all that? Well, this will maybe show you something. So I'm going to go ahead and just create another plane, and this one I'm going to go ahead and just same thing. I'm going to make it 24 by 24, you know, 1 by 1. This time though, I'm going to take this plane and I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to hold J on my keyboard so I can snap to the 15-degree increments, or you could just put 90 in the X right there. And now I'm going to go ahead and just make a new material. So assign new material, another Lambert, good for the references. Should be naming these M underscore, let's just say front. Actually, this would probably be the side if we were going to go with its current orientation, but we could just rotate it. So we'll go get the file. Okay, this sometimes happens. Some reason Maya breaks with the materials, and like it doesn't, you'll get like this red flag here. If that happens, now it's not jumping back. Strange. Okay, let's just do it again. Just hit this file. See, this time it didn't break. It's strange why that happens, but I'm not sure what's going on. So we're gonna go with front. We'll say open, and bada bing, there you got your front. Now this is why I set it up the way I did, with the, you know, having the basically the plane, or I should say in Photoshop having it like at that halfway point, because now it automatically comes in like it's basically sitting on the ground plane. It's just a way to kind of shorten your work and easy to line stuff up. So I'll go ahead and move it this direction. Oh wait, actually I did have it the right direction. That's the Z is going forward, so that's what we want. Actually this one we'll want to go ahead and rotate this that way. Yes, that's the rear. Okay, and then we could go ahead and just, you know, if you want to do the back, you can hit Control D to duplicate. You could go ahead and hold J, rotate it 180 degrees. I like to move this off just a little bit, so I'm going to just move it just a tiny bit like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a new material for this. So I'll go ahead and say assign new material. You know this routine. We'll name it M underscore rear, like so. And then let's go and grab that rear texture, or back texture. I could have said back, I guess back, rear, whatever. And you could see, look at how nicely that aligns up. So when we're turning back and forth, it's very easy to see. Of course, you know, at this point here, we could just, you know, you could duplicate that. Bottom one, hold J, rotate it this way. So this would be the left side that we would need. And same routine. Let's see here, new material, Lambert, M underscore left, something like that, short and sweet, to the point. Go left side, open, and there you go. Now you got that right there. We can move it a little bit this way so that we're not getting Z fighting between the left and the right. Control D, rotate this around, holding J, and same thing. New material, invert, and we'll get the right side. There it is. Open. Okay. Let's see here. Gotta move it a little bit. Which one do I have? That's the left. I moved the wrong one. That's the right. Okay, so this is something that happens. Sometimes you get some weird transparency things going on where it doesn't show through properly. This was sort of the thing I was having with PNGs. I thought the targets worked better, but looks like they're kind of all doing it. So that's okay. You know, definitely want to throw these into a layer, and I can hide them and unhide them as needed. So I'll just come here. Let's just throw them on a layer. We'll call this our ref layer. Let's see here, ref. Oops, what did I do? I accidentally clicked off of it. Ref underscore, and I don't know, let's make these yellow. Save. So that way, if we click off of them and we have our wireframe unshaded on, like we always know that these yellow lines are our references. And you know, now we can start boxing stuff out and modeling stuff. So this has got us to a good place. Now, of course, I'll go through and name these as well. We could just start off and say, you know, ref underscore top, something like that, and I'll name them all accordingly like that, so that they're kind of like coded, so I know anything that has ref is one of these reference layers. And of course, when we don't want to see them, we can hide them and whatnot. So right now these are only 24 by 24, but we need to make a box here. I'm going to just make a box for measurement's sake, and I'm going to go ahead and make the depth. What did I say it was? 68 centimeters. So my by default is in centimeters. We'll make this like half of that, which would be 34. So we'll do something like that. So my by default is in centimeters, so we can just go and make a box like that. We can grab all of these except for the box, and let's just scale these up. I'm thinking about this. Should I scale them up like this? Because they might come in a little, or they're a little bit offset. So let me undo that. Let me take any of them that I moved and just move them back to center, and I'll move them in a little bit, so that way they'll scale perfectly from center. So I'm just zeroing these out, so they're right at the center. They were pretty close anyway, but I just like them to scale perfectly. So yeah, you could see them Z fighting. That's called Z fighting. That's when they flicker like that. And let's make that a little bit smaller. Maybe a little bit smaller. Move this up a little bit. Let's see here. We want to move this in world space, and it looks like it's not doing that. It's going in object space. Let's move it in world space. So that's just your tool settings, and we should be able to slide that up a little bit like so. Oh yeah, that's close. That's good enough. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so now we've done all that. We can go ahead and yeah, this is good. So the scale is good. We can go ahead and just let's just go ahead and freeze the transformations. Oh, you don't like me. Error freezing transformations because top scale has an incoming connection. What are you talking about? Seriously? I don't know what happened here. Let's see here. What did I do? Break connections. There we go. Okay, I did something. That's our measurement box. So I can just delete that for now. Well, let's just leave it. We might need it. Let's grab all these. Let me do this. Break connections. Okay. Not sure what was going on there. Not sure how I did that. Maybe I hit a key or something that set a key for that. And this would be the front. So I can move that up a little bit. Ref underscore front. Okay, you don't need to see me name these because that would be really boring. So that's it. That is setting up references and with a few little mistakes and caveats. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.